Welcome everyone. My name is Vincent Rodriguez, also known as 8-Figure Vision. I'm here to provide to you the next in our vast book series. The book is The Art of Strategy. This book was published by Avinash, Dixit, and Nalebuff. It's a great book. I would suggest definitely having this book as a go-to guide, almost as a textbook. Really goes over strategy and how it's applied to our everyday lives, but also in society. And one of the things that I viewed here is it really goes over many topics such as negotiation, right? I mean, we're looking at how do you negotiate in a situation? How do you get out of it, right? How do you get into a negotiation with something, right? Whether you're negotiating an increase in your wage, whether you're negotiating maybe out of something, right? Maybe a perilous situation or whatever, right? But how do you actually negotiate? Other things such as, how does strategy and negotiation impact behavior, right? Also looking at many other things such as manipulating information and interpreting it. We're looking at how does voting, how is that something that's been strategic? In this book, I really like that the author also spoke about how the Constitution is such a solid document because the way in which it had considered all possibilities of something to an extent in which almost everything was anticipated in advance, right? Strategy has a lot to do with foresight, right? He talks about, any of you ever heard of the phrase, two roads diverge in a wood, right? Two roads diverge in a yellow wood, and I took the lesser path, right? And it was the greatest decision, something to that matter. That phrase, right, is oddly strategic. So when you take a situation where there are multiple outcomes, strategy in an art form is schematic. So you take the schematics of any situation and you break it into all of its possibilities, and then you look at, right, what's the outcome here? What's the potential outcome here? What happens if, how do they interrelate to one another? If I take this path, what's going to happen to this path, right? Maybe this path is now, the path that I take is more susceptible to erosion over time, right? But it's also now susceptible to a bit more exposure on the part of, people that go on that same path versus the other path that I take where it's more susceptible to growth of, forestation and things like that, right? So what are the different possibilities? That's probably my major take from this book, ladies and gentlemen, The Art of Strategy. It's great in the sense that, it's helping you open your mind and looking at every single way in which you handle any given situation. But now that I've given you guys the example, let's backtrack a bit, right? So what is the core element of the art of strategy? Here we're talking about game theory, right? So this is all about how to utilize game theory. For those of you that don't know what game theory is, see, game theory is highly related to the prisoner's dilemma, right? Where you look at a particular outcome, and with one outcome has an effect, and it has an actual result that will negatively impact the other outcome. So if there are two individuals, right, and one of them makes a certain decision that would negatively impact the other individual, right? Another person makes a decision that would negatively impact the other individual. Now what you have is two situations that are win-lose, right? It's kind of a turn of the dice. What ends up happening is now you're looking for the result, but where's the win-win and where's the lose-lose? That is also a possibility, right? So game theory relates strongly to the prisoner's dilemma and how do you create a win-win from a situation? How do you make it so the decision that one person makes, the decision that the other person makes, right, that they both make a decision in which they can equally benefit. Now, why am I speaking about all this theory, right? Game theory, this, game theory, that? Because this applies to your business, this applies to your life, this applies to your family, right? In the sense that when you look at the decisions you make every day, who is it impacting, right? What path can you take? Are you really looking for the win-win, or are you chasing ways to negatively to take people out? All right, they talked in this book about corporations versus cooperation, right? And what is the distinction between the two, right? A cooperative environment is one in which all people can create a win-win, versus a somewhat of a corporation where the idea is to climb up a vertical ladder, right? Where cooperation is a horizontal ladder in which all people can support each other and their growth together, right? A corporate ladder is just, people looking to almost like crabs in a bucket find themselves all the way up. So it's about creating that sense of how do you create a win-win, potentially win-win-win from a situation, right? When you go to work, when you work overtime, right? Tomorrow, let's say you work on a Saturday, today's Friday, so let's say tomorrow's Saturday, and you decide to go to work, you decide to give those 8 hours of your life, maybe 4 hours, whatever it has you, right? That time that you could be spending with your family, where is the win-win, right? If you go to work, then you might view it as a potential loss, right? Because now you're not having that time with your family, right? If you stay at home, then you could be viewing that as a potential loss as well, because you're not actually going out and providing for your family and paying the bills, right? Or is there some other way? Can you find a win-win, right? Maybe in an alternative situation, you could find, okay, going to work the 4 hours and spending the rest of the 4 hours at home with the family. Or maybe starting the day with the family and then the other 4 hours going to work, right? So, maybe you can perpetuate that win-win situation just by simply, creating an environment in which you can produce both work and have family at the same time, right? What kind of win-win would you create in that? So the advice, ladies and gentlemen, is look for the win-wins in life. They're all around you every day. So I want you to just jot it out. Next time, diagram it, write it out, and say, okay, this is what we have this is the path that I want to take. I can choose path A, I could choose path Z. And then map out what are all of the possibilities of it. When you do that, right, as difficult as that situation may be, then, right, look for the win-win. Which one is a win-lose door? Close the more of the lose doors and open more of the win-win doors. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so this is to all my winners out there. Again, I would recommend this book, The Art of Strategy, definitely by Avinash, Dixit, and Nalebuff. Keep this as your textbook, as your guide, as your go-to book for when you go back over and over again, and just looking for ways to really utilize forward-making decision and reverse engineering.